Colleagues, we continue. The next topic is public appeal regarding numerous drawbacks of bills on interior ministry reform. I invite the chair of Olexandr Matviychuk and the lawyer, coordinator of the Heaven of 100, Pavel Dykan. Good morning, dear colleagues. Thank you very much that you found time to participate in our briefing, which is not about shortcomings in the package of laws that reform Ministry of Interior. We law enforcement organizations will wait and we're looking forward for those draft laws, and in our opinion, they are late 1 year at least, and because of that, if there were no serious shortcomings, we wouldn't make a public appeal and wouldn't have a press conference. But the problem is that the process of development of those draft laws, which for us suddenly text appeared on the website of the Parliament, and it made impossible our participation during the preparation stage, and that's why we have to say that the paragraphs of those laws they contradict a number of principles in the strategy of development of Ministry of Interior. We analyzed 4 draft laws, and as to 3 of them we made an appeal, and in our presentation I would like to draw attention to 2 of them. And the first one is the draft law on a national police. The first shortcoming in the systemic shortcoming of the draft law is that it doesn't provide compulsory competition for appointing positions. What does it mean? It means that the head of any structural division in his own, he decides whether to take to have competition or appoint someone using some other criteria. We know this tradition of corruption in our country, not only in the Ministry of Interior. We believe that this gives a lot of opportunities for corruption, and the police will not be as transparent. The second systemic shortcoming is about during Euromaidan, and my colleague will speak about that, and before that, our police functioned according to the principle of a militarized or armed military formation. That's why one of the demilitarization of police, that was one of the principles, and despite that, and unclear why in the draft law we have Soviet system of special ranks. In addition to that, some people would like to have positions of generals, colonels, and to use military attributes and symbols to achieve their own goals. We don't see any other need to keep that old system of special ranks. We don't see that, because those who work in Ministry of Interior, they are civilians, and they can do the job in uniform, but they should have just civilian ranks. That reflects on the attitude of police to the duties, and also on the way how police looks like. We have to deal with this military formation or civic service, which provides for the needs of people. The next important shortcoming, we pay attention to who participate in this experimental training, new patrols, and so this is about professional training, insurance, and healthcare. I have to say that absence of changes in the system of professional training that violates the principle of optimization of the structure of the Minister of Interior and preserve the system of institutions without any reforms. And the reform as a part of the experiment of training they were introduced, and I know as a trainer on human rights, and I was training new patrolmen, and it's very important that people participate in selection. In even on the stage, when they train, there should be communication between civil society and them. And the reasons are not clear for us. And so reforms in the system of training, somehow they believe they don't need it, don't need trainers. And we cannot just take from the air necessary number of good policemen. And the only hope is that we will educate them slowly, we'll train them. Also, mention is to control and the use of force and weapons and the liquidation of commercial elements in the structure of the Ministry of Interior. If to speak about the law on the Ministry of Interior, or when we analyzed it, it looks like a document, and they were in a hurry to bring it to. So the main shortcoming is it doesn't look finished, but to the content, and also the bigger part of it is about functioning of the ministry, and all the rest of the bodies of the ministry are not defined in the draft law. Among 23 articles of the draft law, 16 have norms, and that means that 16 norms of this draft law say that the issues will be sold to somebody in the future, probably the government or the Ministry of Interior. So the law is half empty, and it says that we pass the regulation that once in the future somebody will resolve these issues. It's a big shortcoming. And sum it up, we prepared this infographic which speaks about the process of demilitarization, depolitization, and of the Ministry of Interior. And here we have 12 points, and that should be in any draft law on a national police. And it doesn't matter how political, which political party brings that to the parliament. And for a year we wait for this package. And if we postpone for one more year, it's impossible. On this stage, people looking at the procedure of registration of these documents, we can influence only on some elements of how police should act. So our main requirement, in addition to finishing these draft laws, and we hope that it will happen, in these laws there should be preconditions to influence on the future reforms. So we should put such norms and such paragraphs which allow us in some time to bring necessary changes for the reform to be efficient, and for the reform to achieve its goal, and for us to have that police which meets these 12 standards. These institutional preconditions is in making police under the control of people, under territorial communities and citizens. And we gave recommendations how we should broaden functions of police commissions, and they could give access to do checks, to do audits, and there should be reports, and also they should report in public to local authorities. So they should consult with local self-governance and with NGOs. There should be an annual report of the police, and there should be discussion of it. And we are sure that if even in this not perfect draft law on national police, If we introduce these norms, these paragraphs, for us, law enforcement organizations that signed this appeal and that is at the Center of European Freedoms, Center for Human Rights, Center to Study Police, Standard Social Idea, and other organizations that support it. And so it's possible to change the process of reforms and to direct it in correct flow in correct directions, and the system of taking decisions in the ministry, we should consult, and there should be horizontal, and there should be clear, very good connection with civic society.
Good morning. I'm Pavel Dykan, lawyer. I provide consultation. Actually, we are a group of lawyers who work with the family members of those who were killed in action in the east of Ukraine and those who took part in Maidan. I would like to return to those events which became preceded the further developments in Ukraine. Unfortunately, if you're talking about the progress, this is a slow one. We managed to submit this information only 1 year after the February for 2014. As we remember, the major reason of the police actions in those days was the politicization of not police but militia. Their military, let's say, basis and the violation of human rights. Nobody actually took care of those issues, though something is fixed in our legislation, but it didn't work. And that's why there was a need to reform the whole law enforcement assessment. The problems in those days actually became the reason, one of the reasons of inefficient investigations. In my opinion, the major reason is the absence of the reforming in those days, because if those laws were submitted and adopted last year, maybe today we would have absolutely different outcome or result. But according to the effective versions of the law acting in the law enforcement area, the law on prosecutor's office, on the SBU, on the Ministry of Interior, they made it possible to some extent to actually, they contributed to this kind of real violation and blatant violation of human rights. And starting from November the 30th last year, when the law enforcement officers, in the presence of a lot of witnesses, they just battered the students and some other people who were in the streets. They have not been yet identified, and because there were no identifying signs on their uniforms, unfortunately this is not fixed yet in the new law which has been submitted to the Verkhovna Rada for their consideration. Actually, it's nothing said in the new draft law. There is no system of control inside the law enforcement bodies, which actually were, this situation was proved during the investigations conducted. Well, actually, those law enforcement officers were acquitted, or actually some of the people have left the ranks of their respective services, but actually the respective investigative bodies show off like they pretend to be conducting the investigation because there's something which they demand of them. But the law does not provide for kind of identification of the policeman or the committing on the disciplinary responsibility, which are badly required because this specific system proved its need and its value in many countries. Of course, we have to have some kind of competition for promotion to different levels in the career, because the policeman has to to know clearly how big his salary is going to be, or some other surcharges or bonuses, but the main body of the salary, he has to know about that, because he has to be protected from some illegal or legitimate orders issued by his bosses. Those are certain things which have to be, by all means, implemented or introduced into the law. As Olexandr already mentioned, it's not necessary, it's impossible to leave the old hierarchical system in new police. We do not need military ranks. We should not leave in the Ministry of the Interior this system of education or training, because somehow historically we have a separate academy for the prosecutor's office, we have the academy of the Minister of the Interior, academy of the tax administration, etc., etc. But this is law. Has to be kind of a general education. There shouldn't be provided separate higher education establishments. They have to learn to study law, starting from the lawyer and all the way to the other to the would-be patrolman or the street policeman. Coming back again to the events of European Maidan, and just to compare what had happened there and why it happened in those days, this kind of the clan system, which actually can be explained by the system of education and the internal subordination dependence, became the reason of the fact that up till now, practically nobody who used to be part of the law enforcement system never witnessed or provided any testimony concerning those events. I believe we have to do everything possible in order to break this kind of clan nature dependence, and the human rights must be in the focus of attention of everything. But actually, this new dirt law leaves to be much desired. We should, in my opinion, actually, they should to take in consideration different versions worked out and drawn up by different groups, and then to take the best of everything. But Verkhovna Rada also leaves much to be desired, and actually we need to somehow to reform that. As again, if speaking about us, we also would like to say that the draft law makes provision for certain things which contradict to the Constitution, and in fact run counter to some other legislative acts, and they require some kind of coordination. We are talking about the social patronage for children, and we still have this kind of the contractual, let's say, security and also service function system, which also must not be within the system of the Minister of the Interior, but delegated to the local authorities of the Minister of Justice, which actually used to provide those services and carried out those functions. That's why I believe that this draft law requires a lot of work, additional work to be done. And I really wish the deputies and the experts who are going to work with this draft law further on, so that they could take into consideration remarks, comments, and from voiced by the public, and take them into consideration in their draft law. Before we switch over to Q&A session, I would like to once again emphasize that we do understand the need for the radical changes or reforming of the law enforcement bodies. Even in the right protection organizations circle, there was a discussion whether how efficient it is to criticize the agency or the body, which is lame, it is, it slowly moves towards reforming. Should we kind of trap this body let them be move slowly to ahead. I mean, my opinion is this is not the tripping move on our part. We just try this kind of lame agency to walk slowly in the correct direction. Decentralization, depolitization, and whatnot. There are some draft laws which have the index of aborigines. Corruption, I mean bribery, whatever. And we are going to we would like everybody to hear our comments. We have just one time for one question, so please.
Question for the Ukraine Crisis Media Center. Those recommendations and those shortcomings that you mentioned, did you communicate them to the Ministry of Interior? Will there be their action? Of course, we communicated. When we received some texts on interim, we analyzed them, and some experts who signed this appeal, representatives of law enforcement advocacy groups, they were authors of that strategy of development of Ministry of Interior. That's why we emphasize that this draft law contradicts principles in the strategy. We said that officially, not only during the working meetings, because in the ministry there was no answer from the Ministry of Interior. But I remember the letter we sent to the Deputy Minister of Ekazgulaze, who, according to our information, is personally responsible for these draft laws, and the Center of Freedoms asked me to. They asked you to involve me to the development of these draft courts, and I received the letter of who is lower by the position, and the answer, softly saying, surprised me, because they advised us to work with the Ministry of Interior through the Civic Council. First of all, you have to understand that people decide how to communicate with the ministry, and the Civic Council doesn't limit us to work directly. I'm a member of expert council by the Ministry of Interior, and anyway, they advised me to work through the Civic Council, and as far as I know, the Civic Council doesn't work for long. So that's the answer received on the stage of preparation of this draft law, and we would like to pay attention of those who are responsible in the ministry, that for them not to receive many corrections from MPs. It's better to make homework and to discuss this draft law before it is registered in. It's better to discuss it with advocacy groups, and so we have to finish this press briefing. And thank you very much, and good luck. Our next